Welcome back to the shop, fellow shop rats. Today I'm back on the 26 Oakland and I'm flying solo because I have a little fabrication project to do on this car. Cars of this vintage didn't really have much for air filters on them. This did have kind of a sound baffle box thing on it. We'll show you that in a bit. But we really felt like we wanted to put a real air filter on this. It's going to be high performance. It's going to make it into a race car. So don't go away. I'm Mike.
This is My Cars Shop.
The original unit that was on this car had an adapter on it to adapt it to a different carburetor that I don't believe was a factory unit. And this slides in the carburetor we have now that we got from Wayne Koffel at Koffel's Oakland Sales and Service or something like that out in Bangor, Pennsylvania. Um, this fits right in there the way it's supposed to. But there's really no air filter inside of this, and I don't know if there is one that goes in there. I haven't taken time to research it. But Dad and I were up at our local our local auto parts, O'Reilly's. And we were looking, and the parts manager that I work with all the time up there, Beth, was digging through the computer, putting in the dimensions to try to adapt, to find a filter we could adapt to fit inside the canister, because I thought it'd be really cool to keep the original canister. Well, we decided that we may do that at some point, but Dad was digging around over in the high performance section, and he found somewhere here, there it is, he found a little air filter by Mr. Gasket that he came over and said, "Do you think we can make this work?" I said, "Yes, we should be able to," but I was concerned about how small this filter is. Now I know that's not really a high performance car and it's probably fine, but we went back over there and dug around and found a box that I don't know how to open. We found a second air filter that we can put in here. And I'm very comfortable with that. Now, maybe someday we can find a true air filter that is one unit, blah, blah, blah. Not going to worry about that right now. This is going to work. Total cost on this, the replacement filter was like 10, and I think this was 25. So not bad. But then, of course, the stud that goes in there wasn't long enough. And, well, we just had, issues, because this is the little stud that's supposed to go through here to screw it all together. So we picked up some same size screws. There's a package of 2 bolts that I'm hopefully going to be able to make work with a little fabrication. But this is the main thing we got to do here. And we got some other stuff in here. I don't remember what this is. Oh, yeah, if we were going to use the factory one, we needed a couple bolts, so we bought those too. But I want to adapt. This is an exhaust adapter. And I want to adapt that. It almost fits in here, so that's good. We may adapt it differently, but there's a little plastic adapter in there that I think is going to work. And this is a little big to go into the carburetor. It's actually the same size as the carburetor itself and would slide over this. So we got to do a little job of work. I thought about cutting this off and making an adapter to slip it in there, but I really don't want to mess up the original air filter. So I'm going to set that aside, and we're going to do a little fabrication work on this adapter. But let's take you over to the car and show you how the OE one fits, and then I'll show you my thoughts on this adapter and how it's going to work. Well, our original equipment air filter would slide into the carburator like so, and be careful, the manifold has got a little heat to it. Slide in there about like that, and then this unit goes on here like this, and then there's a bracket that's laying down here on the running board that goes over to hold it to the exhaust, and it's missing some way to hold this together, so I was going to probably just use some zip ties. So we could go that direction, and that would be fine, but we thought some air filtration would be better, and form, or I should say function over form, because there's no filtration with that. So I'm thinking that I'm going to modify this unit to slide into the carburetor, and then we'll hopefully have enough room to get those dual filters on there. We should have no problem with that. So the thing I need to do is probably start with modifying this. We need to downsize it just a little bit. So let's get into it. Probably the best way to downsize this, I think, is to do 4 or 5, probably 5 pie slices around this in equidistant areas, squeeze it together, and then we'll TIG weld it back together once we have it close to the right size. So we'll have some, this is going to be some kind of precise work, but if we did 6, let me think. Do I have a marker here? I do not. If we did 6, we could go zht, zht. Yeah, that would work. Zht. So we could take jump, 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 and I think that would be a good way to go. Then we'll squeeze it down, hopefully to the right size, and we'll go from there. So let's get some pie slices in this. So we just need some kind of a straight edge to make a pseudo straight line. It's not quite straight, but it's close. There we go. Straighten that out a little bit. Okay, and then I want one right on the opposite side. So I'm just going to eyeball it. Again, it's not rocket science here, you know what I'm saying? So I'm sure there's better ways to do this. This is the way I'm doing it. Yeah, I really think we need 6. So I need to determine what the center is here and then split that by 2. This is where I really enjoy having one of these soft tapes for sewing. That's where I got this right from the Wally World. Okay, so let me make sure that I'm actually, so that's 4, 2, or I should say 1, 2, 1, 2, 3 and an eighth. Let's see if it is the other way, if it's 3 and an eighth as well. Find out how far off I am. 3 and an eighth, pretty darn close, so we're good. Okay, so what we need to do is, so if we are 3-ish and an eighth, then we need to go so 1, 2, 3 and an eighth. So the center between those two would be 1.5. And then the center between those two would be 3/4. So there we go. And yeah, whoops, I'm off. There we go. Okay. Yep, I was off on that one. No, actually, I'm going to do 8 cuts. Yeah, this is 8 cuts, and that's fine. I think 8 cuts is good. So let's go around the other way now, do the same thing. Yeah, I didn't calculate that right, but that's okay. I think 8 cuts is going to be better than, so 1.5 is there, and then 3/4 is about right there, and again 3/4. Okay, so those are where my cuts are going to be. So we're going to have 8 cuts all the way around that. See that all right? So I'll make my lines longer because I really need to take it way down because I also need to shorten the depth on this so it slips into the carburetor deeper. But that gives me plenty of material to work with. So let's do a little straight edgy thing here. This will work. It's a very good way to do it, actually. Well, actually. Other than the fact that I got some zoots on there. Yeah, never thought of doing it like this, but this is good. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be done. I'm sure there's a million other ways to do it. This is the way I'm doing it. Remember, the motto around here is it doesn't have to be done right. It just needs to be done. And as long as it's safe and you're happy with it, that's the end product, right? That's the goal. Okay, we got some nice lines around there. So I'm going to take the cutoff wheel. Here, Fido. Here, Fido. We've got all 8 of our slices in there, so now I want to find a clamp and just see if I can tighten that down enough to get me what I need. I may need to make these a little bit deeper. We'll see. Time will tell. So let me go find a hose clamp. Wish there was a way I could use this adapter, but at least it'll help me know how to size it. I can still use the carburetor, of course, but that fits over there nicely. So we're going to go squeeze it down closer to the bottom, I think. Hopefully we have enough. Yeah, maybe we don't have enough. Maybe those cuts aren't quite enough. We may need to widen them up a little bit. But let's just, we're not ready to give up yet. Just relax. Almost. If that was a little bit thicker material, we could just put it in the lathe and turn it down, but it's not. Boy, it's close. So we need to widen the cuts out. So I think a way to do that, see if this works. Okay, that should work, is we squeeze them together, and I'll just run the cutoff wheel down in there part way like this and widen those cuts out, and then we can take this off and continue it down. But I think squeezing them together is maybe the best option at this point. Resliced it, put the clamp back on it. Perfect. So I'll go check it in the carburetor, but I'm sure it's fine because this fits over the air filter that goes into the carburetor. So I think we're going to be close. This is going to need to be a little bit shorter, but I think we're pretty close there. So I'm probably going to make it just a little bit tighter, like so, because I've got some more work to do to it. And it's also got a couple of things that, that's a little better. I like that even better now. And this has got a cut in it, so I don't know if it's exactly, but some of these are kind of tipping up a little bit, so I need to make sure that all of them go out in place before we start welding this thing all back up. Probably the way to do that is to find something that'll slip in there that's round, and I can just kind of use it to work this into place. So, but I think we're pretty good. I need to determine where to cut this off, and I need to decide if I'm going to cut it off before I weld it or after. I think I'm going to cut it off before. I think that makes the most sense, because that way if I need to tweak it a little bit more, I can. But I do have a couple of these that need to be, just adjusted, just ever so slightly. Maybe we can do it this way. Oh yeah, that works. I'm glad I did 8 cuts. Oh, this is turning out really nice just by using these wire cutters. It's pulling it right in place. So pliers would probably have worked also, but use what you got, This happened to be sitting right there. So yeah, it looks good. It's going to need a little truing up, of course, but not bad. Let me go check it in the carburetor. I got one that's just a little bit funky right there. It's that funky cold Medina. It's actually a little on the small side. That surprises me. So yeah, let's determine our depth. We want to be the same as that, basically. We probably can cut off 1/2 inch, be my guess. So we got to be real careful we do that just right. And then we've got to adjust this before we start welding to be sure that it fits snug enough into the carburetor. We also will need to check our choke and make sure that we don't have any interference in there, but I don't think we will. There's a set screw that goes right in here to hold this in place. So yeah, this is going pretty good, but we need to shorten that up. I'd like it to be up in this area. Okay, so I think the quickest way to make a nice mark on this is just make a mark here so I can see it. Then we'll spin the lathe, and I'll just come in with my marker and just let it draw a nice line around it. Oops, I missed one spot, but that's okay. It's just a little, and I don't expect this to be, within 10 thousandths or anything. It's just cheap and dirty. So we'll take the cutoff wheel. I might just do it right here since it's all chucked up and fixed up. And I think I can, I'm not going to, well, I could. It's probably not a wise idea. With those little fingers all cut, that thing could go wonky and snap the cutoff wheel. So I'm just going to make it stationary and just slice that off here. I could, if I had a parting tool, I could possibly do that. But again, with all these little fingers, I'm concerned about it catching and just destroying everything. So I think stationary, just a nice little slice with the cutoff wheel here, and we should be golden. One of the things that I've been doing recently is just forcing myself to use my TIG welder more. And I discovered that the gas pedal, or whatever you want to call it, the foot pedal, I don't have the control that I want. And I was really struggling with welding. And I got rid of that and just went back to using the trigger, and it made a huge difference. So I suppose I better put my glasses on. So I just went through and just did one little spot weld, and I'm going to do that all the way around. Then we'll take the clamp off and go back, and yeah, we'll do that. Finish out the welds is what I'm trying to say. So this is going to be a little bit. I'll share a little bit with you, and then we'll do the rest of it off camera. I am no expert at TIG welding, like I said, but I haven't done it in so long is part of the issue. So I just need a little tissue. Well, this clamp is kind of screwing me up here. But get this hard one done here first. I just burned it away. That's okay. We got to cut that anyway, so it'll be fine. Oh, I already did cut that. Duh. I got my amperage probably a little high. My TIG rod is a little big for this. There we go. Okay, it's a little bit overkill, but we'll get her float in there now. Come on. I'm getting a lot of blobbing because of the fill rod is a little bit too big, but it'll work. So I need to get the clamp out of there and then get these done the rest of the way. And part of that is dealing with this edge. It wants to burn away, and that's because the amperage is so high, and it's because the fill rod is just a little bit thick. I should be using 16th. I don't have any. I only have 25 thousandths, and I have 3/32. So this is what I'm stuck with using. So that's why I'm getting such a huge bead, and I need a little fill in there because there's a gap in there. So I'm going to pull the clamp off and get the rest of these stitched down. All right, it is not pretty, but it is pretty much done. I'm going to check, see if there's any little pinholes. We'll get it ground down, and we'll go from there. But I'm not disappointed with that. I haven't TIG welded in close to 30 years, and I've had this TIG welder since about late in 2020, I think, and 21 probably. But I haven't used it much. I haven't practiced much with it, so I'm not disappointed with that. I think the way I'm going to grind this is I'm going to put it back in the lathe and spin it. Yeah, well, I need to grind the welds down first. But the reason I wanted to TIG weld this is because TIG welds are softer than MIG, and so it'll be a little easier to clean this up. So I'm going to go ahead and take my angle grinder and just touch that up a little bit, and we'll go from there. Got it rough ground. I got a couple little pits to fill, and I've got to do some work inside of there yet to clean up some things, but it's looking good. So I'm going to just, to finish it out, I'm going to spin it here and just run the grinder over it. We got to be careful we don't make it too thin, obviously, but I just want to dress it up just a little bit. And my end is a little bit, but we'll straighten that out here real quick. Pretty good. Went through and patched up the little holes that were in it, so it looks all right. I also took the Dremel, went inside and just dressed up the welds to make sure there was no loose slag in there that's going to break loose. I didn't grind it perfectly, but that's all I had. If I had a little bigger grinder, I'd probably spend more time at it. I thought about a burr wheel, but I think the little Dremel tool was fine. So I think we're pretty good now. So it's sealed up good. So let's move on to the next part. I don't think I'm going to shorten that. So maybe what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and clean that up, and we'll shoot it with some paint. Let that dry while we're working on the air filter itself. But let's go see how it fits in the carburator itself. I think it's going to work pretty good. Wow, look at that. Isn't that nice? And then there's a set screw that goes right there to hold it in place. So yeah, it fits in there nice. You wedge her up in there good, tighten up the set screw, and I think we'll be golden. So all right, let's get this part taken care of now that needs to be taken care of. Well, let's paint this first. Got her shot inside and out, so we'll let that dry. Then we'll hit it with some kind of silver probably, but for now, we'll let that dry. So the next thing is we need to make the extended stud for this. This is the original stud that threaded in there. And we're thinking we can use a couple of these. They may be too long overall. We may have to chop and machine and weld, but let's see what we can do with it. Well, change of plans. There's a little plastic sleeve that was fitting in the back of this, and then this would fit in there, and it's just not strong, and I don't like it at all. So what I decided to do is I found a piece of exhaust pipe, and this fits over this now, and then I'm going to put this in here. We're going to peen that down a little bit, and we're just going to weld that whole thing together. I think that's going to be our best option to make that work. So more welding, but then that'll be nice and strong. And I also discovered that I don't need to make a special stud. The bolt here, this bolt with our double stack, is perfect. So it fits right in and it will thread all together. So I need to go clean this up, get the chrome off of it so we can TIG that to this, and I'm just going to do some tacks probably. Looks like I need to clean up a little bit more on that because I got a lot of dirt there. So I could MIG this, but I'm getting practice with the TIG today, so let's just keep going. There we go. It's all rough together. It's in place. It's nice and tight. Got a little bit of when I put this together here, it must have twisted a little bit. That's okay. Um, I think it looks fine. We can adjust it. The other thing I'm thinking is I may want to put a bracket back here over to the exhaust like the other one had. It was like this, just to give it a little extra support. There's the bracket there. We may add something like that just to give it a little extra support. I'm not sure. I'm just concerned this could potentially just fall off of there because there's really nothing holding it on there. The other option, and this is probably the best option, I've tightened this down pretty good. I may put a little pocket in that here so that it recesses in a little bit, then it can't fall out. So maybe that's what we'll do. Even if it comes loose, it won't fall out if this bolt is into a little pocket in here. So let me ponder that a second. There we go. So we put a little recess in there where that bolt is going to kind of pocket into, and that should keep it from ever falling out of there. So I think we're good. Let's give it a shot, see how it works. Turned out really nice. I put some Pour 15 patch over that because this cheap chrome pot metal, by the time I ground the chrome off, was really hard to weld to, even with the TIG welder, because I had two pieces of exhaust pipe to weld together as well as adding that. It's all welded and holding good, but there was little pinholes and stuff, and I just wanted to be safe. So I'm comfortable with that. And you can see our little recess for the bolt there now. Looks real good. So I think this is going to work really well, and it should do the job for us. We'll find out over time. Hopefully it doesn't come falling out of there and land on the road and we run it over and we just wasted $50 plus a whole day's worth of time. But it's a fun little project, that's for sure. Let's go put it on the car. So again, we line up our little dimple with the bolt, push her in, snug her down, and away we go. Make sure it's in there all the way and give her an old torqueroni, I hope. Almost feels like we could use a little longer bolt in there, but it's nice and tight, so I don't think it's going anywhere. Time will tell, but I don't think we need a bracket back here. We'll run it like that. I don't think it's going to fall out of there. We'll find out. I still got a ways I could put that bolt in, I guess. Yeah, I could. I don't want to get too carried away because I don't want to strip the carburetor out. That carburetor's 100 years old, but I think it's going to do the job. Well, let's take a peek and see if it held on there or not. Just took it for a couple mile ride. It's tight. I think we're good. So we'll find out. We're going to be this is probably the last time it's going to get loaded in the trailer before the trip. Today is Sunday. We leave Thursday morning, and yeah, so all good. Got to play with the TIG welder quite a bit. Haven't used that much at all in a long time. So finding my chops, getting used to the machine, stuff like that. I've only spent a few hours using it since I bought it. So I need to just be more intentional about it. But it's one of those things where I know what I can do with my MIG. And so I just go at stuff and get it done. And instead of just taking the time, because it takes me 3-4 times longer with the TIG. But if I keep practicing, it won't. Well, I think that's going to do it for this one. Thanks for spending the day with me here. All told, Had about four hours into that, maybe 4 or 5 hours. I don't know, something like that. But again, it's fun. There's maybe some different air filters that might have just fit right on there, but it's what we found. The air cleaner was, I think, $25 for the whole little chrome assembly with a filter, and then the extra filter was $10. The exhaust adapter was $5, and we had a couple bucks for some bolts. So less than that, probably $45 to do all of that, plus a good day in the shop. So, and I think it just made some great content because why not? All right, that's going to do it. We will catch you on the next one, and don't forget because it's important. Rock!